It's the Final Word Daily coming to you from Vizag Cricket Stadium. I'm Cameron Punsby. I'm joined by Cricinfo's Al Mutu. This episode, as always, is brought to you by Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City. We are going to have a kind of Indian-focused episode today. We're 2 days out from the Test match. It's not really a preview. Me and Adam will have that tomorrow, but we're just going to get a general overview of the scene of Indian cricket currently. So, Al, first and foremost, welcome.
Thank you.
Second and foremost, what's the reaction been to the defeat? It was obviously the fourth defeat in about a decade. Panic, or that was actually quite fun?
I don't think it was panic. I think within the team, they understand that the mistake that they did was more in the first innings where they didn't score a lot of runs rather than the second innings where they felt a spin. Although outside of the team, there has been a little bit of a bubble up in terms of batters not playing spin well enough and stuff. For example, the number 3, Shubman Gill, fell a little weirdly in both innings. So there's a little bit of concern in terms of competence against playing spin, which is weird because this is going to be a spinning track.
We're going to get to both Shubman Gill and the wicket later. But obviously, I don't think we need to go in too much depth about how big a blow losing Jadeja and KL Rahul is. But can you give a sense of like the likely changes and what options India have going into the second test?
They do have some options, possibly not. The options that they have are Rajat Patidar for KL Rahul, who has been playing a lot of first-class cricket, who has been identified in terms of the India A pathway that they have. He's been playing a lot of those matches as well. It's likely that he's coming in for KL Rahul, but there's also Sarfaraz Khan. He was supposed to play a Ranji game right now if KL wasn't injured. He was supposed to be in Kolkata. But he's here now because he's been playing domestic cricket for a long time. He scores a lot of runs really quickly, and he's good against spins. So India are obviously keeping their options open in terms of an attacking player like Sarfaraz Khan or Patidar, who is more orthodox and the kind of guy who would score those big hundreds that Dravid was looking for. Not that Sarfaraz doesn't, because he scored 161 against the Lions. So those are the batting options. The bowling is where it's tricky, because I think Kuldeep will come in straight for Jadeja, but that would mean their batting drops off because Jadeja average is 53 and Kuldeep does not. So they might be thinking about maybe dropping a fast bowler like Siraj and bringing in Washington Sundar, who is an all-rounder, and he's also a left-hander who can maybe combat Tom Hartley, and if Jack Leach plays, that way.
I'm fascinated by the fact that India might go, we need another left-hander in the batting lineup to combat Jack Leach and Tom Hartley. Given a week ago, I don't think they'd have ever thought about that, ever. I do think replacing Jadeja is cricket's impossible task. He is, in my view, if I could pick to be one cricketer in the world, I would be him. He's such a fantastic batter. He's an exciting bowler. He's a rock star. He's a good-looking boy. He's the best fielder in the world. How you go about kind of fixing that kind of balance. So is there a possibility that there's 3 changes then? So it's not just a KL Rahul straight swap, someone comes in for Jadeja. They do that element where they bring Washington Sundar in for Mohammad Siraj, and Kuldeep Yadav comes in for Jadeja. So they actually follow England's blueprint of one seamer.
It might happen. It'll possibly depend on the pitch. If it is not as big a turner as maybe even Hyderabad was, they might need the fast bowler, in which case they'll just have to suck it up and go in with a batter short. But if it is a turner, they might just bring in Washington and go the England way. Who would have thought that would happen?
I want to talk a little bit about Sarfaraz Khan, because I know I'm happy to be corrected on this, but I feel like Sarfaraz is the original, the number one kind of IPL-born superstar, at least from my memory of like watching the IPL from back home. He's never played a game for India, and he kind of burst onto the scene as this teenager who, like, realistically, optically, was quite funny. He was the little chubby lad who was best mates with Chris Gale, who was about 7 foot a million. He averages 70 in first-class cricket. He's such a kind of precocious talent. Perhaps for people who are outside of India, what has been the kind of stopping, the thing that's prevented him from making the leap into international cricket?
It's probably India's strength, because they prefer playing at home with 5 batters, 3 spin bowling all-rounders. That's 8 spots blocked in the 2 fast bowlers. So to break in as just a specialist batter into this team, it's really, really hard. Even now, he's only come in because Kohli's out, because Rahul's out, and there's all of these extraneous factors coming in. So being a specialist batter in India, especially in Test cricket, is really, really hard. But Sarfaraz has been doing everything that he possibly can. He's been scoring mountains of runs at a massive strike rate as well. So first-class cricket is possibly his best format. So this call-up is well-deserved. And if England are thinking of going with an old spin attack, like McCullum said, that, I think, brings Sarfaraz more into the picture because he is a basher of spin.
I'd be amazed if England go that. Well, would I be amazed? Because that's kind of... I feel like England might do it just for the sake of it because they found it funny. But from the early indications we're getting... I mean, there's literally a cover on the pitch right now, so you can't see. But apparently it's a bit greener. We'll get onto the kind of the real detail of that stuff in a little bit of time. But you mentioned there, being a specialist batsman in India or to get into the Indian Test side, one of the hardest tasks in the world. Someone who's finding that at the moment is Shubman Gill. How do you solve a problem like Shubman Gill? He has been the kind of anointed one. He's been the chosen one. He goes out with Tendulkar's daughter. It's all there. He's a good-looking boy. He should be India's Test number 3 or 4 for as many years as he wants to be. I think his average across the last 6 Test matches is 17. And across his career after his first game, I think it's still under 30. His current average is under 30. How much of a rope does he have? Does he have kind of carte blanche? Is it similar to Zach Crawley with England, where they went, this guy is the real deal, we're going to stick with him no matter what? Or is there a chance he's getting a tap on the shoulder pretty soon if the runs don't come?
Zach Crawley comparison is actually quite good because there is a lot of talent in there. His back foot game against fast bowling is some of the best that I've ever seen. So it's that potential that is keeping India in Gill's corner. And they believe that a person with that much potential does have a high ceiling. So the drawbacks, the mistakes that he's making where he's playing spin with really hard hands, they believe he can correct it, and the coaching staff is good enough to help him devise ways out of the dead ends that he's hitting. So there is a long enough rope, and I think Gill does deserve that rope, but he's going to have to start churning out runs soon, especially in this series. This series is probably the most important one of his short career right now.
That's so, because I was wondering whether KL Rahul's injury has... Obviously, it's a problem for India in that the team is weakened, but in terms of a selection dilemma, it saves them a bit of a problem. Because, say, we have one more test, then Kohli comes back, would it have been KL Rahul, would it have been Shreyas Iyer, would it have been Shubman Gill who would have probably dropped out for that third test?
If everyone had been fit, especially considering the innings that Rahul played in Hyderabad, maybe it would have been Gill who goes out. I'm not sure, but it could have been him because of those 2 low scores. But that dilemma is for another day now because Rahul is injured, and when Kohli comes in, it's probably still going to be Gill at number 3, so he gets a bunch of games to sort out what he needs to sort out, because game time is possibly the best thing where a batter out of form can sort of get into it. So maybe that, in a weird way, turns out well for him.
Has it been so? Obviously, the stat about India had lost 3 Test matches out of their last 46 at home was everywhere. It's obviously now 4 out of the last 47. But what I hadn't quite considered about that stat was 2 of the 3 defeats mentioned. One was against Australia less than a year ago. The other one was England in 2021. So from 2021 to 2012, it was actually 1 defeat in almost a decade. You say there's not any panic stations within the Indian camp about the defeat. But in terms of the batting lineup, those first innings wickets, when everyone kind of assumed India were going to get away with it, now look a bit bad in the kind of following the result. Do you think there'll be a change of approach from India this match in terms of we can't just get 400 and roll these guys over? We're going to see kind of more of a knuckling down to push towards 600.
India will want a massive first innings score because, again, Dravid did point out that that's where they fell short. Dravid wanted like 500, 550, and at least one batter. When the conditions were good, on the second day, possibly in Hyderabad, the conditions were the best they were for batting, and Dravid wanted someone to score a big 100. That's what India would be concentrating on right now. That's what Rohit will definitely be concentrating on right now because the batting has lost a lot of experience with the players falling to injury. So much of the focus will be on Rohit, will be on Shreyas Iyer, who might come in at number 4 now. So those guys are the ones the team will be looking to score those massive hundreds, no matter what the conditions are here today. Yeah.
One more question about KL Rahul, very quickly, and Jadeja, before we move on to what's going on out there. Do we have an idea of the timeline of their injuries? Are we expecting Jadeja and or KL Rahul back for Test 3, for Test 5? Do we know?
Right at the minute, there's not much information about that. It's only the second test that they're missing. We don't know how long or how serious an injury it is, so maybe that's just a wait and see.
Nice and vague for everyone wanting to know. Right, the pitch. We love pitch talk, and when I say love, I mean hate, detest, and find it annoying. But it is important in the context of the series and the match. I've heard 2 contrasting reports about how Vizag plays. One person said to me, or one thing I read went, it's coastal, it's hotter down here, it's going to spin more than Hyderabad, just naturally because of the environment we're in. The other one I read went, it's the flattest pitch in India. Those 2 assessments are not the same. It's 1-1. You have the deciding vote. What are we expecting from Vizag?
Okay. It probably starts out flat, so the person who said the flattest wicket in India is probably right. Starts out that way. But then the pitch does break up because, as you said, it's coastal, it's sunny. And by the 3rd day, by maybe even this final session of the 2nd day, spin does start coming in. So it's probably one of the throwback subcontinent wickets that we'll get here in Vizag.
Lovely. So it sounds quite a traditional wicket, to be honest. I mean, Zach Crawley's just been chatting, and I don't know if you can probably just make it out between me and Al on the YouTube at least. The 2 practice wickets either side are very green. I like to think I have some sort of an authoritative voice when it comes to cricket. I was overstating it, but wickets is my one kind of black hole of knowledge where I look at it, I just go, that is a cricket pitch. And someone goes, it's going to play like day 3, and I go, I've only ever played 50 over cricket. I don't know what you mean. But Zach Crawley's been saying it looks a bit greener. It looks like it'll be a little bit better for seamers. That could make life quite easy for England because with Jack Leach's injury, if he's not fully fit, you can just bring a seamer in. Anyway, I want to finish with a bit more of a holistic question about cricket. We obviously had one of Test cricket's most exciting days, however many days ago it was now, of the result in Hyderabad and the result in Brisbane. This idea that, and Jeff and Adam was touching on this in the weekly show, that yes, it's all well and good saying Shamar Joseph or Bazball is going to save Test cricket and inject life into it, but really what is required is the big boards, India, England, Australia, to kind of group together and kind of change the financial model and kind of divvy out the funds to keep these players interested, keep the Test cricket the pinnacle financially as well as figuratively. Rob Key, England's managing director, has said that he would like the idea of Test cricket having windows. Nick Hockley has been on this show and kind of spoken about this kind of blue sky model of like we needed this moment of desperation where South Africa is sending a 3rd team to New Zealand for action to happen. Do you think it's at all realistic that that attitude may be met by the BCCI and it could actually be a case where in however many years' time we are seeing revenues split across the kind of other 8, 9, 10 Test nations?
There's a lot of talk around it. The West Indies Cricket Board chief also raised it maybe in the lead up to the Brisbane Test, and then the Brisbane Test was that amazing advert for Test cricket. There is a need in Test cricket for the big boards to band around to maybe do a little more than they're doing, because right now the health of Test cricket is safe. In India, Australia and England, in Hyderabad, there were 25,000 people on each day. So that rounds up to maybe 100,000 people attending the Test match. So it'd be nice if that many people come in for every Test match. And any effort taken in that direction would be celebrated. So maybe the BCCI might be willing to do that because the kind of goodwill that they'd get, it would be massive. So in that sense, it is something that they might be looking into, but I don't know. Right now, talking about it seems a bit early, I guess.
Right, so Rob, Nick, Jay, reach into your pocket, see what happens. That's been the Final Word Daily. He's been Al Musu, I've been Cameron Punsonby. Me and Adam will be back tomorrow for the preview show of the second test. Until then, goodbye. Al, thank you for being here.
No problem.
Thank me for being here. Thank you. See you later. Till tomorrow. Bye.